That's all for you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
My name is Burnham. I'm an author and comic book creator, writer. The search for Sadiqah, my newest comic that I'm releasing. I'm shooting this for a Kickstarter. It's a historical action adventure fantasy that follows a 13-year-old young lady named Sadiqah in the 1920s in Southwest United States. She's going on this magical quest.
But I pinned the Kickstarter so the people can, when they join in, they could go right to the Kickstarter. But but going back to our conversation earlier, man, that Sadiqah remind me of like that girl next door. She's like that. Remember that song from Another Bad Creation, Aisha?
Uh-huh.
She reminds me of Aisha. She's like that girl you can never have. But everybody want to get with her, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. She's a little bit, she's tough for her. They didn't have thugs back in 1921, I would think, but she's, you know, she's serious. I like her because she's really confident.
I'm on it.
Oh God. And she's a little bit arrogant, but that's part of her journey. Like when you're young, you think you know everything. You haven't seen close to anything, you know what I'm saying? So she gets to go through like some transition. So it's cool because like with Tuskegee Heirs, I have like 5 main characters that you gotta develop. With her. Yep. She's like the main character. And then you do have some other people that'll weigh in, but it's mainly her. It's mainly her story.
But I do love not to give people like, you know, spoilers or stuff like that or anything like that, which I don't know. But what I love how is that her character takes the characteristics of her mother and dad a little bit. Like when it comes to the physical aspect of it is her mom and that relationship with her mom, and her dad. He's like this. Like, can't think of a character. I can't think of a character similar, but he's like this smart guy you think as a nerd, but he's there to protect his family when he has to protect his family. Yeah. So can you talk about that dynamic of family in the story?
Well, that part I just wanted to, like when you're searching and studying up on Black Wall Street, you realize that, so many things that we've been taught about what a black man is or what a black man was, it's like totally wrong. Like you had these educated men who were fully capable, but they weren't, how they try to depict, especially back then, we was all yes or no, sir,
yep,
like all that stuff. That's not all it was. There were a lot of, very intelligent, highly capable, brilliant people that were educated and were like taking the torch and running with it. And so that's how her father has that dynamic. He's not soft, but without going too far off, like we always get, like people always want to say, if you're, you can't be both. You have to be, either you're like this little nerd person, you're highly intellectual, or he's not soft at all. He's like a real, I hate to say real man, but he's, like he loves his family, he loves his community. He's playing chess with people, but he'll still pull out the jammy on you.
But I'm just saying, his game got to be tight to pick up to get Sadiqah's now mom. But I'm just saying, he gotta have some game, man. He can't, like, he's not no long, like some lame dude would pick up a fine female like that, man. So his game is tight.
Right, and he's not even he's not like, we haven't even really gone that deep into explaining who they really are. So that comes as the story goes along. And as far as her mom is, you know, she's, so I made it to where she's half African American and half Native American. She has like that aspect of, you know, being able to, you know, utilize the earth to heal and help, you know, but she also is the one who teaches Sadiqah how to fight. So it's like, you know, both of them. I wanted to create like well-rounded people. Like, I don't like linear characters. I don't like people where it's like you're either all of this or all of that. Like, no, we're real people, man. We do a lot of things.
And that's the one thing I like about the story, is that it's not like stereotype driven. Because, you know, if you see a lot of like cartoons and comic books, they're stereotype driven. Like you have this person that fit this description. You have this person fit this kind of agenda, and everyone has their own personal agenda that fits a certain character. And the great thing about the story is that these characters are complex. You know, they have different issues. You know, everybody's at the end of the day is trying to serve themselves, and that's real life, you know. And so that's the one thing I like about the story. And then going to the mother aspect of it, I love the relationship, like your dedication to women, because of the relationship between the mother and the daughter. Because yes, she's a fighter, but she's a nurturer too. And that's the one thing. On this planet, Black women are the most disrespected. And so I love how, you know, you put emphasis on that. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was raised by women. I was raised by my mother, my sister, my grandmother, my great aunt, like these people. And then like a couple of my friends' mothers was like my other mothers, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we had like all these women around who, you know, would literally put their life on the line to try to keep you going on the right track. You know, they would give whatever they could. And I realized, you know, like, you know, for a long time I was, you know, I think I was just regular thinking, you know, man, you woman, you know. But as I watched these women go through all of these struggles, and it's like it can only like weigh on you. Like, I don't understand how people can grow up with a Black mama, you know what I'm saying? A Black grandmother in this world and disrespect and like hate Black women. Like, I don't get it, but I know it exists. And, you know, everything is not always perfect or anything, but I just want to, like, whatever I do, I'm going to always go on the line. Even if I have a Black woman that's a villain, like,
yes,
this chick right here.
Nice. She got that kind of Rihanna look to her.
Even if I have, you know, somebody that's a villain, she's still going to be nuanced, and she's still going to be thoughtful and calculated. There's enough material, you know, whether it's on TV, wherever, videos, music, like there's enough material tearing Black women down. So I'm trying to just, you know, not take part in that.
And I think, and again, I think that's important. And then also you know, being a father, you know, you have a daughter and a stepdaughter. And I think the pretty cool about the search of Sadiqah, as well as Tasiki Harris, is like you have Iona's, which is one of the characters, is kind of similar to your actual daughter. And Sadiqah is actually characteristically wise similar to your stepdaughter. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, when we were doing the characters for Tuskegee Heirs, I'm going to show this. when we were doing the characters for this, like it just came. I was like, "Yo, we're gonna make 4 of the 5 main characters our kids," because I have 2 and Marcus has 2, and so that's what we modeled. So Ayana right here,
Awesome.
and then where's Genesis at? In Genesis right here, this is Marcus's daughter.
Awesome.
That comes right out. It was added in the story on purpose, and it was like. It just fit really well. It wasn't the kind of thing people always ask us, what made you guys decide to have a girl be the leader? Like, it's just how it rolls. My mom's a leader, his mom's a leader. Like, his mom took care of, like, raised 4 boys by herself.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, these are our heroes. So so it was cool. And then with Sadiqah, I modeled, like, the original character designs were based off my stepdaughter, because she's like such an inspiration to me. So these, she's out of college. She got her master's, like all this stuff, and my daughter is going in that same route right now, and it's just like watching them and being able to sit with them through the basic trials, like the smallest trials that young girls go through, and watching them just push through. I admire them, and they inspire me pretty much more than anything, because it's like, I don't know how much of this I had to do with making you guys who you are, but y'all sure make me proud. You know what I'm saying?
But what do your daughters think when they, like, your stepdaughter sees, like, or she probably got an early advanced copy of everything. So when you show that to her, what is that emotion like? Especially with your daughter does resemble Iana. Like, how's those conversations are when you bring that to them?
So I'm gonna be honest, and people never understand this. These kids have been growing up seeing this for all their lives, just about. Because me and Marcus, we've been doing stuff for 20-something years, and so it's like, believe it or not, it's not that big of a deal to them.
No,
they just hey, cool.
Okay, Dad.
I know we went to Marcus, because we do like a lot of school visits and stuff. We went to Marcus's kids' school, and we talked to both of their classes. They're in different grades or whatever.
Right.
And it was so funny because we were watching, like, all these kids are so excited, but then Marcus's daughter, she's just like like it's they've seen us hustling and doing this stuff for so long that it I guess nothing I guess I can brag on him. I think he's an amazing artist. So they've been looking at amazing art since they came out of the womb. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So it's not a big deal to them. So it's cool. I will say they're appreciative, and they love it. But like my daughter, her freshman year, she had a pop culture class, and she was like, "Guys, we're talking about comic books." And I was like,
there you go.
Did you tell your team, your professor?
That's an easy A+ right there.
She's like, no. And I'm like, why? She's like, well, I mean, it's not that, she wasn't saying Tuskegee Airson isn't that big of a deal. Right. She was like, she's not trying to bring attention to herself in that way. And I'm like, but she might be able to, give me some money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Do speaking engagements.
Right.
That's for me. Like, so she was like, Dad, no. Yeah. But yeah, I think they're super cool with it. But like I said, it just doesn't. They're not like, look at me. Yeah.
And then also, you know, you have the happy part, and then you also have the frustration part too. You know, you have that emotional connection with the characters, especially how it kind of reflects to real life, as well as, you know, the tragedy of Breonna Taylor. And I know even though your daughters are adult, it's still you have those conversations because again, unfortunately, what happens is, you know, you can only protect them to a certain point, and now they're adults and they live their life, so you can't protect them. So can you kind of talk about that frustration aspect of it?
Man, that's, you know, that's just off the rip. Like I made a post on Facebook the other day because all this time I had to really realize now I got to talk to my kids about how to, you know, I already talked to them about what to do if you get pulled over by the police. I talked to them about what to do if you're walking and you get stopped. You know what I'm saying? Like, so now I have to, you know, come up. I have, you know, I live with my brother lives with me and my son lives with me. My son is 23. We're like, it's like a bachelor pad. It's kind of cool. It's really nerdy. But it's like, we're sitting here talking about how do we handle this? Because I already have like my house has been broken into before. So, you know, like if somebody kicks in my door, I'm turning, you know, come around the corner and I'm dumping. Like, and now it's like, oh no, I have to wait and then check to see if it's a cop who's in plain clothes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you're coming to rob me. I know that my son and my little brother are here. So it's like, you know, and so now we got to have that conversation with my girls. I got to have that conversation with all these young people that I mentor. And it's sad. And, you know, frustration is the right word because in a perfect world, a man would be allowed to be a man, you know. But in this world, it's like, that's not the case. And like I was talking with Marcus today just about it. I wasn't surprised. I'm a history major.
Right.
I know the history of this country. I wasn't surprised that the cops got off. The fact that they could fix themselves to basically, you know, convict the cop of shooting recklessly into, you know, because those bullets went through the walls or the windows and hit, you know,
another apartment. Yep.
Yeah, another apartment with white people, from what I understand.
Yep.
And that's like why.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you get convicted of.
Yeah.
And I always, because you know, you see people online. You got all these people online who are attorneys and all this stuff. I try to get people to always understand, you know, the point of contact where this man, you know, is trying to defend his home and he shoots, from what he said, a warning shot into the ground that mysteriously ended up in a cop's leg.
But real fast, bro, they just came out with information that the bullet that hit the cop wasn't from his bullet.
Right. It was like a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Plaxico Burress. But you know, the fact that, you know, this man fired a warning shot and people say, well, you know, he shouldn't have done that. But the thing is, we have to start looking, and this is why when they say defund, they need to start looking at this justice system as a whole. Because somebody signed a warrant and said, yeah, go up in there at any time of the night, and you don't have to knock, and you don't have to announce yourself. And this is just based off of speculation.
Right.
Now, I've been alive long enough to understand that police, the, you know, DEA, people know who's really moving real drugs. You know what I'm saying? It don't have to be speculation. They know because half the time they're the ones selling it to them.
Right.
So you know that this is not like some type of, if you stake this house out for enough time, you know this is not any type of, you know, so all of these things lead up to the fact that this man, within his rights, you kick in my door, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to wait for you to identify yourself, wait for you to shoot me or shoot somebody. No. So there's so many points where all this, garbage happens, and then they talk about, they try to use that to justify why someone is murdered, and that's murder.
Yeah.
Like if me and you decided to go kick in somebody's door, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And shoot somebody. Freaking OJ, and I'm not in the business of taking up for OJ, but OJ went up into a spot with two of his homies, and I think one of them had a gun, and he just took back the stuff that was his.
Yeah.
And he ended up doing how many years?
Oh, yeah, he did a lot. Yeah, he did.
and I only bring these up not because I think that, not because I'm confused with the dichotomy. I understand, that Black people are going to, face the worst of the justice system.
Right.
And, and white people, especially cops, are going to get the best side of it.
Right.
I understand that, but it's just to bring it up so, you can see the imbalance there.
Yeah.
This man took a trophy and did, 10-something years in jail?
Yep.
In prison. And this guy murdered somebody along with his homies, because that's the other thing. If me and you kick somebody's door in and you shoot them, I'm still going to jail too. I'm still complicit.
Yeah.
So, I know people try to say, oh, Black people are overreacting, yada, yada, yada. But this is not an overreaction, man. Where am I safe?
Right. And people act like Jim Crow was a long time ago. That wasn't that long ago. That was 60 years ago. So that's not long ago. And some of those laws in the books are still based out of Jim Crow, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the fact, and I forget the brother's name. He does these really good videos. He always ends and says, "I love you." And you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I watch that religiously, man.
And he was talking about just the fact when the Constitution was written. The Constitution was written before we had organized police.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he said, these over 200 years, it's been amended 27 times.
Yes.
It was totally set up. Think about it. It was totally set up then to only benefit white males and not even regular white people. It was set up to benefit the rich, the privileged. And now, there's such thing as saying, hey man, let's scrap this whole thing.
No, seriously.
I think about me and Marcus. How many business plans have we had in the last 20 years?
Thousands.
It got us this far, but if we want to go to the next level, man, we got to switch some stuff up. You can't do that with justice.
We can. It's just like you said. It's set up
to benefit.
Benefit certain people, and that's what it is. And but going to history, I love I love your guys, how you guys implement little nuggets of history in your story, because I think that's how people kind of find history intriguing nowadays. People don't want to pick up a big almanac or a book on our history. Not as much in the past. For example, The Watchmen, that was very successful. That first episode about Black Wall Street. After that episode ever went off, the next day, everybody and their mama went Google searched about that information. So can you kind of talk about the significance of and history to tell a story about?
It's really interesting because, if you look at, everybody implements, Roman history and Greek and European, all these different things into their stuff, Vikings, all this stuff. And we see this resurgence of people adding, African history, like if you're in the indie community that I'm in anyway. And so it's like we have all this history in the United States that's been kept from us, and they might give you a little bit of it just to say that just to, appease you a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, real talk, it's like we're not really just digging deep into some of these, wonderful moments, these heroic moments, like the Tuskegee Airmen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So what we're doing is just kind of, we're building these, building stuff into the stories. I'm like, I don't want it to seem like any type. I don't want to say personally because that would mean Marcus does it.
Right.
We don't want it to seem like you're reading a history lesson or anything like that. We want you to just like be turning the page and be like, oh, what's that? Maybe that's something I'll look up. That was always the stuff that intrigued me, is when I see it, you introduce me, but then let me go do the real research, because if I really care about it, I'm going to go do the real research. When we did Tuskegee Airs, we had like all these people who had never heard of the Tuskegee Airmen at all. And we had people from all over the world inboxing us, emailing, whatever, and just being like, man, I'm just happy that you guys introduced me to this, because I didn't know this existed. There's a lady in the Virgin Islands. She said that she read up, she saw what we did. So she read up on the Tuskegee Airmen. She found out that there were a few of them from the Virgin Islands. Yep. And she found out that she was related to one of them.
That's it. And it took your book for her to do the research to find out,
right.
She has that historical lineage. And I think that's the big point, too, is that we come from, when it comes to literature, we come from a historic lineage. Like if you go farther back to Alexander Dumas, the writer of Three Musketeers and Count of Monte Cristo, he's one of the most famous literature writers in French, but he's from Haitian descent because his father, Dumas, was the famous French general in France. They called him the Black Devil, Black Napoleon. He was more feared than Napoleon. And that's the one thing, is that we come from that history. And again, when it comes to storytelling and, adding that component of history to it, and it makes a significant difference. And I think, that's important. Like, I would love to see a story about Thomas Dumas.
Hey, I know this guy who, creates stories and does. And honestly, it's amazing, that you say that, because there's so much information that we can show. So I truly believe that, when you start everybody off, you start us off at slavery.
Yeah.
That's your inception to understanding who you are, where you come from.
Right.
It's like there's a big ceiling.
Right. No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, because that's the one thing too, that a lot of people know, that the Count of Monte Cristo was based on his father, because he was the general in Egypt, and they failed, and they came back. I guess they said he was for treason, and they imprisoned him, and he died a poor man.
Wow!
And that's where that story comes from.
I didn't even know that. I'm going to be looking that up.
And then the cool thing about it, like when he was a general, he had a connection with Aubrey Toussaint, the famous general of Haiti.
Haiti, yeah.
So Haiti has a rich history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it'd be awesome if someone touched on that story, because their story they have a great story. But again, we have this perception about Haiti that it's this poor country, poor people. No. They come from a rich history, man. They was the first.
until the Clintons got to him, they still, you know what I'm saying? Because the Clintons did, like, when, you know, I don't want to go too far
Nah,
into
no
stuff,
political, right?
but no, the Clintons got to that. Remember Bill Clinton talking about they're going to bring Haiti into the first world, and
Yep.
they're going to, you know, make things electronical and blah,
Yep.
blah, blah. And then they ended up, some people say, poisoning the land, destroying the rice. And at the same time, Arkansas ended up, where Bill Clinton is from, ended up kind of taking Haiti's spot, because Haiti was like the #1 rice producer in the world, I believe, or at least on this side of the world.
Yeah.
And now, you know, like, mysteriously, Haiti's, you know, rice crops die, and Arkansas pops up. So yeah, there's a speaking of that, there's a little I'm doing a 6-page story. Marcus is drawing it for me for this noir, black noir. Black is the new noir. Something like that. And I'm actually talking about some stuff. It's based off of, you know, some stuff that happened in Arkansas when
That'd be
Clinton was
dope.
so
That'd be
cool.
dope, man. I can't wait to see that. Hopefully, I get a sneak peek of it. But going back, go ahead, bro.
I'm sorry.
No,
I was just gonna say it's only 6 pages, but I've already decided I'm gonna make at least do like a 1-shot, you know, comic of it.
No,
Story.
No, because it's important, because you know we need that aspect that a lot of people don't know about, you know, and that dynamic that if you know we need that, and again, the way people to digest things is through laughter and emotions when they read, like, you know, fictional stories, you know, and I think that's important, and what you're doing with Sadiqah is it's important. I think it brings affirmation to Black children as Black adults too, because what it does is, you know, it make people wonder, like, what happened to the survivors of the massacre, because that story's never been told. It's like what happened after, you know, you and that's one thing too. We talked about it before, is that for the longest time they called it a riot. And because they called it a riot, it wasn't covered under the insurance. So a lot of them was basically asked out. They had to start over with no money, no nothing. Some of them committed suicide. Some of them just never couldn't recuperate.
Yeah, I mean, some picked up and left. I don't know if I told you this, man. I recently, this has been just like over the last month or so, found out that I have on my father's side, his mom's side came from Oklahoma.
Wow.
And it looks like, from what I've seen, it looks like they left Oklahoma like in the 20s and went to Missouri, which makes sense. But we're finding out that they owned a lot of property. They owned a lot of property and like mineral deposits and all this stuff.
Wow.
So now it's, you know, it's hitting home. It's so crazy because I found this out like a year after the first issue came out. You know?
Wow.
But it's like, you wonder sometimes why you gravitate towards certain, you know, certain stories, certain, you know, certain events, and this could have something to do with it. So now we're trying to, you know, really like look in and figure out what's really going on with it. But yeah, when you say that, like, that's part of now what I want to do is figure out what happened. You know, did they leave just on, you know, was it unrelated, or did they leave because of, you know, because there was a time where Oklahoma was kind of looked at as like a place that people could go, like Black people, Native Americans could go and kind of, you know, rebuild and prosper. And, you know, it was the same thing because we've seen it. We've talked about it, like Seneca Village and like all these other places in the United States.
Yeah,
where
especially like if you think about Los Angeles, that's the same thing with Los Angeles. A lot of uh, black Mexicans, and they travel from Mexico to Los
Mhm.
Angeles, to what is President Los Angeles. But a lot of people don't know that because a lot of that stuff was kind of destroyed. So that story is never told, but they did a story in the New York Times saying, no, 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 they moved. Because people don't forget is that a lot of slaves, there was like another underground railroad to Mexico. So a lot of slaves went to Mexico and made
Yep.
homes in Mexico. Also,
Mhm.
you know, you have an African influence in Latin America because a lot of the slave boats came to Latin America. So you have that African lineage in Latin
Absolutely.
America.
There was black people here before slaves was here.
Right before Columbus, yeah.
We see that with the Olmec heads. Um, I think the biggest point is all these stories are things like I just watched. You talk about Los Angeles. I watched a documentary. It was actually about the Crips and the Bloods, but it explained like the history of Los Angeles and how the gangs came to be
Yeah.
and how I think I'm good enough to break it down to say that what they did was, they convinced themselves that we were less than, we were,
Yep.
and then they were like, go ahead and let them have their little spaces. And then
Yep.
they saw what we built out of it.
Yep.
And that hurts. Because think about it. All you got, you can't read.
Nope.
You're not athletically talented. You're
Nope.
not anything special.
Nope.
You survive off of having privilege.
Yep.
And all you have is to hang your hat on the fact that I'm better than you by
Yep.
birth.
Yep.
And then I look over and see you with limited tools becoming a doctor and being better. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like,
Yep.
that's gotta hurt.
Right.
And so what they did, like systematically, like clockwork, they figured out, oh, look for any kind of reason to start a riot, look for any kind of reason to burn you down. You know what I'm saying? It's why I despise the pick yourself up from your bootstraps. That little mantra.
Yeah.
I hate it because this country ain't never worked like that.
Nope. Nope.
You know what
Never.
I'm saying? It's never worked like that. You can pick yourself up to an extent, and then they're gonna cut you down whenever see fit. Most Def said it. You start, what do you say? You start catching up. They switch the tempo. It's like
Yeah.
once you get into whatever this rhythm is, and you're mastering this system,
Yeah.
they're gonna switch it and move it.
Yeah. And like, I know we're going on our little rant when we talk about history, but the critical point too is that a lot of the former slave owners got reparation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when I mean the especially like the slave traders
Yeah.
and the people whose business was they received money, like the whole insurance on slaves thing,
Yeah.
that built more wealth than the people who had slaves.
Yeah.
Like the insured during the slave trades and all of that. It's amazing, man. Like how diabolical, and I don't use that word for nothing, you know what I'm saying?
No, I totally agree with you, bro.
Diabolical this was, how intricate and how and I use well just from the standpoint of them having it, it was well planned, and it digs so deep that half the time people would be like, there is no way in hell that somebody would be this, filthy. But yeah, they are.
Yeah, when you have true intentions to just, hurt other people just so you can, feel comfortable in your little bubble, and that's the story of America. That's everything in a nutshell. But what do you want to tell people about this Kickstarter? Why is it important?
So the Kickstarter is a great way for people like me, self-publishers, to be able to launch projects. Number one, there's no way that we could do the stuff that we do, if we couldn't circumvent the regular, publishing system. And by that, I mean, there's all kinds of checks and balances. They put limits on what you can do. Some of the stuff, I don't think our messages are heavy-handed, because I think we, our goal is to tell great stories and sprinkle stuff in. So it's not like I'm trying to recruit you to anything, but it's just, a Black girl, like this is huge, a Black girl superhero that's centered in Blackness is huge. 5 Black kids who are the main characters. It's huge. And Kickstarter allows us to be able to do this. It definitely allows us to, reach right to the pulse of the people. So with Tuskegee Airs, we dropped it and we ended up getting $10,000 in a day. Ended up getting 74,000 altogether. It was a lot of stuff happened. And that was like the justification for us to say, okay, people want this. They really want this. This is not just a fad. People, are out here looking for it. So I tell people, like, if, the Kickstarter basically is a pre-order system. If you dig it, drop a little bit of money. It helps in everything, like visibility wise, because what we're doing is we're showing that, we can, that the people want it, regardless of, we don't have to ask the gatekeepers to let us in.
Right.
And we've taken these books like all over the country, probably 130 conventions in the last 4 or 5 years. And people, it speaks for itself. So, anybody that's interested, you feel like pledging, that really helps us out. Right now, I'm close to my stretch goal. So the initial Kickstarter, the initial goal was to do the next book, but I set a stretch goal after that to where I can do another smaller book that has a couple of extra stories in it, like shorter stories that kind of fill in the blanks from issue 0 to issue 1. So, and I'm trying to get this one because I got another really cool, really cool thing I want to show to the world, but I got to hit this goal first.
And that's what we're going to try to do with trying to get that out there, so you can hit that goal, because I think that's the beautiful thing of being in the indie industry, is that you can create your own content, and then doing the Kickstarter is that you can have people a part of the process. So when it's done, everyone's like they're like your mini producers, because without them, this is not possible.
Yeah, it's a in this day and age, man, with all the retreading that the comics and the movies and everything does, it's like harder and harder for you to be able to actually get something picked up, and if you do, keep the integrity of it, right? So I go to all these conventions and I talk to all these dudes. I'm cool with these guys that work for DC and Marvel and some of the other ones. And like over and over, they're like, because I'll be like, man, we got an idea for a DC, book. And they'll be like, yeah, man, just take whatever DC is on it, take it off, and just do your thing. And, you'll have better luck doing it that way. Because, they talk to you about how much their vision gets changed. Sometimes you're not even allowed to have a vision from the jump. So imagine you drawing, whoever your favorite character might be. You're doing that book, and they got the person looking like a doofus. And you're like, yo, but I could, change the suit right here. I can do this. You can do that. They're like, nope. This is how we want it. This is how it is. Like, you don't get to say. And then on the flip side, you don't own anything that you make.
Yep.
So even if you introduce new characters into them, you don't own those characters. They own
theirs. Yep.
Right? So am I lying? Would I be lying if I said I don't want to write Spider-Man or Black Panther or something like that?
Right.
Yes, that's a lie. I would love to. And if they called me, I would. But I'm always going to keep working on my own stuff, because this is where it really pays off.
Right.
We own the process.
Mm-hmm.
We publish ourselves. I mail out. If you order books, they're getting sent by me.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? If you order posters, Marcus is shooting those out more than likely. So it's like, this is you're like, when you're purchasing from us, hopefully you're getting something that you love, but you're also helping to actually create, a bigger business, because, we're getting ready to, we're breaking ground on another project that's by a different creator, but he's going to be published with us. And then I got some other, projects as well. So it really helps you. Like, anytime you can,
That's awesome, because I equate that to like music and podcasts too. Is like in music, it's important to own your publishing, your masters. That's the same thing with comic books.
Yep.
That's the difference of being 100% ownership, because 100% ownership means the money and revenue is coming back to you.
Right.
Signing to the big guys, depending on how they set the rules, you probably get like 5% of the revenue. So it is a big difference, huge difference.
Yeah, and with us, like with Tuskegee Airs, for instance, we take the money, we put it back into the business. We're doing okay with other stuff, so it's like we don't need the money. But doing that helps us to be able to, fund on the spot whenever. Like I say last year, it's been so long. Last winter, we got asked to help out with this nonprofit event in San Francisco. And, we're like, yeah, we'll send some books, but can we come? And the lady's like, well, I can't, I don't have money to, I don't have a budget, I would say, to get you guys out there. We're like, no, we'll come. We're good. It allows us to be able to go to the conventions we need to, when we need to order new books, because we order like large quantities.
Right.
So we have that money. So it's like we're constantly building and building up the business. Whereas if we were like you said, if we were just getting a slight percentage, then you're kind of handcuffed. And I always tell people the worst part about it is they can discontinue your book whenever they want.
Yeah.
So,
and then also when it comes to conventions, if you're under contract with like a DC or a Marvel, you got to get a green light from them to go to the convention. You can't just go to a convention because you're under contract with them, because there's a stipulation with it. So like anytime, like for example, you were talking about the teacher said, oh, can you come to bring books, or can you come here? You would have to go to Marvel first, say, is it okay under this contract for us to go there? Because it's not yours, it's theirs.
Right. And that's the thing with us. Like you say that, like we're getting ready to fill an order. We did a school visit, and the school, it's a small, like alternative. I guess alternative is not the right word, because it's a regular school.
Right.
But it's just small, like a startup school. They had like 94 students. They ordered a book for every student. So we're getting ready to fill the order. And they're like, how long will it take for you guys to get the book? I was like, you pay the money and I'll drop the books off at your school.
And I'll hug the kid.
I have the books. All the books, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. We ship, we distribute, we do it all. And the value, like people be like, why don't you get a mailing service to mail your, like, nah, man, I'll do it. It's not just being cheap, but it's like really owning the process. I'm shipping comic books, so I'm going to do my best to make sure that they're not, jacked up when they get to you.
Right. And then I think the one thing, bro, you missed out too is that powerful connection with people, is that those kids meet the creator of the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like kids that look like you. They look at you like, oh, he created this?
Yeah, that's man, we did the school visit. one of the kids had issue 1 of Tuskegee Airs, lost it. And that was it. Like we do what we do because I remember not seeing anybody that wrote that was a writer. They would bring a couple of writers to the school or whatever, but they didn't look anything like me. They didn't even tell you how to get in. Yeah, they didn't tell you what to do if you want to be a great writer. They just talked about whatever they wrote or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, just imagine, just like our kids, how I told you all this stuff is normal for them.
Right.
It's like, hopefully we can, show more kids and they can understand that this could be me too. Like, one of my friends, she sent me a picture. Her daughter's like 9 and she, drew some anime characters, and I was like, you need to get her, you need to find somebody to teach her. Seriously, because, like, dude, I'm not, like, I don't be looking at people's pocketbooks and everything, but I know the kind of money you make writing is way different than the money you make doing art.
That's
and
right.
If you mess around and get good, you can call your own shots. That's why I have to do the publishing and do all the other stuff, because I gotta be able to make money off of this. Because writing's cool. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but it feels good to make money. Like when you write something, that's great. Right. But art. If you got kids that like to do art and they're patient and they want to sit there, and you find people that can teach them basics and then see if they want to keep going. If they're okay with sitting at, a desk or a table for a long periods of time,
that's right.
And then let them, man, because it's a beautiful experience, man.
And that's the one. Yeah, and that's the one powerful thing too. Before we end this conversation, which we can go on for hours, like we did in the past. Like with the whole crew, we had like a 4-hour conversation about everything. That it lasted till like 2:00 in the morning. But the last thing I wanted to say is that our story has inspired the world. Like, for example, I tell a lot of people, if you love the X-Men, after you read the comic books or the movies, what I would recommend you doing is learn about the civil rights movement, because X-Men was based from the civil rights movement. The 2 characters, Magneto and Professor, are based from Dr. King and Malcolm X. And so,
the thing about it is, because like some people will say that that's, just a myth or whatever. And so I never jump all the way into it from that standpoint, because all you got to do is look at parallels, parallels all the way across the board. You know what I'm saying? And you can see, like, you look at the Sentinels, and then you look at Olmec helmets. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can see all of this. This one guy broke down. I lose everything, but he broke down, the how close like some of the superheroes are to like African gods, and you know what I'm saying. So we know they do it with the music, they do it with jazz, they do it with everything. They take what we create and they take this great culture that we create, and then they figure out ways to mesh it and blend it. And sometimes if you don't know your own history, you won't even realize
that's right
where that snitch from,
Yeah.
So it's like at the end of the day, you see the parallels in comics, especially on Marvel's side. Like you see a lot of the parallels. DC is a little bit different, but yeah, that whole X-Men, Magneto, like the parallels, because people try to discredit. The reason I'm saying it is because people try to be like, no, that's not why they created Xavier, and I'm like, even if not, you don't see the parallels.
No, because if you think about it, because I did some research, Stan Lee said his story was influenced by the civil rights movement.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. That's why I said, like, it's, people, I think people get, we see this in comics a lot. People get, really deep into, the weeds. And it's like, man, sometimes you don't have to look at it. From what's his name? They told him Jack Kirby he needed more white people in the book, so they did he put the Klan in there and had Black Panther beat him up.
Right.
They were like two dudes that was really about the people. So.
No, I feel you, bro. But the reason why I brought those correlations together is from those stories, you can draw empathy for people. Whether, you believe it or not, the truth is based on what people believe, but it's all about having empathy and understanding. And if you can understand the plight of the mutants, you can understand the plight of Black people. And other people.
Yep. And other marginalized people. Because it's, this country, like the Native Americans, you know what I'm saying?
They were a mutant. They're still mutants.
Yeah.
Mexicans, mutants,
Right. And so it's like, and you can go to other countries. It's just, I don't know, man. White supremacy is a serious thing, man.
It's a disease, man.
I can't say what I want to say.
It's the first COVID. Look at your face. But that's the reality. But that's that's the world that we live in. But before we end, what words of wisdom do you have to give to the people? Support the Kickstarter.
Right, support the Kickstarter. I'm just telling people, man, like right now, hold your head, man. We have been through 2020 has been a whammy, man.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think we're at that point where it seems like things are still getting back to normal, but I don't know if we've properly grieved.
No.
We haven't had a chance to grieve what this year has brought, man. So I just try to tell people to hold your head. Like I've been feeling the stress, and it mounting, and then you're losing loved ones, and even losing people that might not have died from COVID, but you still can't.
The clock is the time is clicking. 6.
Hold your head, man. Support the Kickstarter.